I make this look good.
Men in Black wasn't just a sci-fi comedy about secret agents and aliens. It was a cinematic illusion built from chaos, late-night rewrites, and sheer improvisation. Behind the cool suits and futuristic gadgets, the production was a battlefield of studio clashes, rewired storylines, and real-life danger. What audiences never saw were the endless reshoots, the nervous studio executives, and the bizarre coincidences that mirrored the film's own plot. So let's dive into 20 weird facts about Men in Black that will change how you see this sleek blockbuster forever. The script was rewritten every morning. Men in Black's script didn't exist in a fixed form during filming. Every morning, director Barry Sonnenfeld would hand new pages to the actors. Tommy Lee Jones reportedly hated it, calling the shifting dialogue chaos. The story's tone changed daily, sometimes more comedic, sometimes more serious, depending on how the dailies felt. Will Smith thrived under it, improvising lines that became iconic, including his famous delivery of, "I make this look good." The rewrites came from studio anxiety that the film's humor might alienate older audiences. Yet the chaos gave it rhythm. Every scene felt alive, spontaneous, unpredictable. What began as frustration became creative combustion. The finished movie feels sharp because every line was battle-tested on set, not polished in a boardroom. Will Smith wasn't the first choice. Before Will Smith donned the black suit, several other stars were approached. Chris O'Donnell turned it down after reading an early draft that lacked humor. David Schwimmer also declined, fearing typecasting after Friends. It wasn't until producer Steven Spielberg saw Smith in Independence Day that the casting shifted. Columbia Pictures hesitated, claiming a black lead might hurt overseas sales. Spielberg overruled them personally, calling Smith to convince him. The choice changed cinema forever. Smith's cool confidence and quick wit defined the film's identity. Not action hero, not slapstick comedian, but something new, a science fiction agent with swagger. Ironically, the same studio that doubted him would later credit his casting as the reason the film grossed over $500 million worldwide. Tommy Lee Jones demanded serious science. Tommy Lee Jones wasn't sold on the script at first. He only agreed to join after Spielberg promised the movie would respect real scientific theories about extraterrestrial life. Jones spent weeks consulting with actual astronomers. He pushed to include accurate depictions of star systems and wormhole logic hidden in the dialogue. During filming, he reportedly lectured crew members about quasars and dark matter between takes. His insistence added depth to Agent K, making him sound like a man who truly believed in the job, not just performing it. The result is why K feels grounded while surrounded by absurd aliens. Jones wasn't acting detached, he was protecting realism inside the madness. His gravitas balanced Smith's energy, creating the chemistry that powered every scene. The aliens were made with real animal parts. Before CGI took over, Hollywood, Men in Black relied on practical effects wizardry. Rick Baker, legendary makeup artist, built more than 30 unique alien designs. Many were crafted from real animal materials, fish scales, bird feathers, reptile skins, to create organic textures. Some crew members found it disgusting, especially during hot shooting days when the rubber suits reeked. Baker called it biological authenticity. The film's most memorable alien, the giant bug played by Vincent D'Onofrio, required a mixture of mechanical puppetry and prosthetics so heavy he could barely move. Every sound of its squish and crunch was made using raw meat recorded in a studio. It wasn't clean science fiction, it was tactile, grotesque, and shockingly real under studio lights. The headquarters wasn't a set at all. The sleek chrome headquarters of the Men in Black looks like a futuristic government lab, but most of it was filmed inside a real location. The lobby was the interior of the New York Pavilion, left abandoned since the 1964 World's Fair. Production designers repurposed the forgotten site, adding glass and steel fixtures to create that cold, bureaucratic alien vibe. The real structure had decayed floors and leaking ceilings, so crew wore protective suits during setup. Locals passing by thought the government had reopened the facility, sparking rumors that a secret agency was working inside. Even after filming ended, people tried sneaking in. The irony was perfect. A fake agency inside a real abandoned government building. It blurred the line between fiction and conspiracy in a way no soundstage could ever replicate. Vincent D'Onofrio tortured his body for the role. Vincent D'Onofrio's performance as Edgar the Bug is unforgettable precisely because it looked painful. And it was. To capture that broken-limbed alien stiffness, he wrapped elastic bands around his knees and wore a restrictive back brace under heavy prosthetics. Every movement hurt. His walk became that eerie insect shuffle because he could barely bend. He spoke through layers of glued latex that made breathing difficult. Crew members recalled him drenched in sweat between takes, unable to sit or rest comfortably. Director Barry Sonnenfeld told him to move like his skin didn't fit his bones, and D'Onofrio delivered exactly that. His physical suffering gave the creature uncanny realism. What audiences saw as brilliant acting was, in truth, a man slowly contorting himself into agony for every frame of screen time. The ending was rebuilt in panic. The original ending of Men in Black was completely different. Instead of the rooftop bug battle, the climax was meant to feature a time-freeze showdown in the World's Fair Towers. But after test screenings, audiences were confused. The studio panicked and ordered a new finale. Just weeks before release, sets were rebuilt overnight. Visual effects teams worked 20-hour shifts to animate the alien bug from scratch. Will Smith had to return for reshoots during promotion for Independence Day. The stress was brutal, but it saved the movie. The insect showdown turned out iconic, becoming one of the most quoted sequences of the decade. The last-minute rewrite cost millions, but without it, Men in Black would have ended with a whisper instead of a roar. Will Smith's sunglasses became an accident. Those iconic black Ray-Ban Predators weren't part of the original costume. They appeared because of an on-set accident. During one night shoot, Smith's eyes became irritated by bright lighting, so wardrobe handed him shades to ease the strain. Sonnenfeld loved the look immediately. It made Agent J seem untouchable, cool under pressure and immune to chaos. The studio noticed sales of that exact model skyrocketed after the trailer dropped, sparking one of the first major film fashion tie-ins of the 1990s. Ray-Ban reported sales tripled within months. The image of two men in suits and shades became cultural shorthand for mystery and power. What began as eye relief for a tired actor became one of the most successful accidental marketing moments in movie history. The worm guys nearly got cut? Those caffeine-loving worm guys almost never made it to the final film. Studio executives feared audiences would find them too cartoonish. Rick Baker fought fiercely to keep them arguing they were the perfect contrast to the film's sleek tone. When the first test audience saw the worms, they erupted in laughter. The studio finally backed down. Later, the worm guys tested so high in popularity that the studio demanded more scenes for them, too late for major additions. Their limited screen time only added to the charm. They became instant icons, later expanding in sequels and animated spin-offs. The lesson was simple. Not every alien needs a budget explosion. Sometimes the strangest, smallest puppets steal the entire show and sell a universe's personality better than a fleet of starships ever could. The score was written in a frenzy. Composer Danny Elfman joined the project late and was given barely 2 weeks to finish the entire score. By then, editing was still incomplete. He composed themes without seeing final footage, relying only on instinct and rough storyboards. His mix of eerie theremin tones and brass percussion gave the film its offbeat rhythm. Executives initially rejected the score, calling it too weird and too bouncy for sci-fi. Sonnenfeld stood firm. The studio relented after Spielberg sided with him. The result became one of Elfman's defining works. The score walks a razor line between comedy and paranoia, exactly the feeling the film demanded. Without it, Men in Black might have felt generic. Instead, it pulsed with musical tension that made every scene hum like alien machinery waiting to explode. Before we jump into the next 10 weird truths, go ahead and like and subscribe because the next section dives into real government involvement, strange on-set injuries, and a deleted scene that terrified Will Smith himself. You won't believe how close the production came to an actual shutdown. The real government got involved. During production, the filmmakers received an unexpected letter from a real government agency politely asking what they were doing with the title Men in Black. It wasn't a joke. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms reportedly wanted to ensure the production wasn't connected to classified operations. The letter was forwarded to Steven Spielberg, who found it hilarious but unsettling. The props team later revealed they had built weapons so realistic that federal authorities visited the set to verify they weren't actual prototypes. Barry Sonnenfeld said the visit gave everyone chills because the agents acted eerily like the movie's characters, calm, efficient, humorless. It was one of those moments where fiction collided with reality. The crew realized the government really did have divisions that nobody was supposed to talk about. Will Smith's first day ended in disaster. On his first day of shooting, Will Smith accidentally broke expensive equipment. During a rehearsal scene involving alien slime, he slipped on a slick floor and crashed into a prop table, knocking over several monitors. The spill shorted the cameras and halted production for hours. Smith felt humiliated, but the crew found it hilarious. Sonnenfeld told him not to worry, saying if he was going to break something, it might as well be on day one. That moment actually set the tone for the film's humor, controlled chaos that somehow worked. From that day forward, Smith used every mishap as fuel for improvisation. The accident even inspired a minor gag later added into the script involving Agent J destroying alien tech during training. Linda Fiorentino only got the role by accident. Linda Fiorentino wasn't the studio's first or even second choice for the role of Dr. Laurel Weaver. Dozens of actresses auditioned, but Sonnenfeld couldn't decide. During a late-night dinner party, he mentioned his dilemma to a mutual friend, who called Fiorentino on the spot. She showed up the next morning unannounced and delivered her audition cold. Sonnenfeld loved her energy so much that he gave her the part immediately. The studio objected, arguing she was too edgy after her performance in The Last Seduction. Sonnenfeld refused to budge. Fiorentino's sarcastic calm turned the character from a damsel into a grounded realist, which balanced the film's absurd tone. Ironically, the woman the studio didn't want became one of the few human anchors in a film full of aliens. The bug sound effects were disgustingly real. The sound design team created the alien bug noises using some of the strangest materials imaginable. They crushed celery for crunch, snapped raw chicken bones for movement, and stirred macaroni and cheese to mimic oozing slime. One sound technician nearly vomited after hours of recording insect buzzes, mixed with chewing noises. The final mix used over 70 layers of grotesque organic sounds to make Edgar's movements feel unsettlingly alive. The result was so convincing that several test audiences flinched during close-ups. Sonnenfeld later joked that the movie might have been the loudest example of food horror ever recorded. It wasn't CGI that made audiences squirm. It was grocery store ingredients twisted into nightmare fuel. The most advanced alien in the film was really built out of dinner leftovers. The noisy cricket nearly injured Will Smith. That tiny gun Agent J carries, the noisy cricket, was much heavier than it looked. Its prop version contained dense metal wiring for recoil effects. During one take, Smith fired it while standing slightly off balance. The fake explosion sent the gun flying backwards, smacking him in the face and leaving a bruise. The crew burst out laughing, and Smith turned it into a bit of improv, pretending to limp after firing. Sonnenfeld loved it so much he kept the comedic recoil in the movie. The prop team later reduced the internal charge to prevent further accidents. What became one of the funniest running gags in the film actually started as a painful moment. The bruised actor laughed it off, but the blooper became cinematic legend. The talking pug was a nightmare to film. Frank the pug may have stolen the show, but working with him nearly drove the crew insane. The dog, whose real name was Mushu, refused to look at his co-stars and often wandered off mid-scene. Trainers had to dangle hot dogs near the camera lens to keep his attention. The mechanical mouth rig used for his talking scenes kept jamming, forcing endless retakes. Tommy Lee Jones, who had little patience for animals on set, reportedly muttered that the dog got more direction than he did. Yet in the final cut, Frank became the heart of the film, his deadpan delivery balancing the human chaos. Mushu's stubbornness gave Frank that unforgettable arrogance, a dog who thought he ran the galaxy. In the end, the nightmare paid off with one of cinema's most memorable pets. The studio fought over the tone. Executives at Columbia Pictures were terrified that Men in Black would confuse audiences. Some thought it should be serious alien horror, others wanted broad slapstick. Director Barry Sonnenfeld had to fight to keep his offbeat blend of comedy and paranoia intact. He screened early cuts with alternate soundtracks, one dark and eerie, the other playful and jazzy. Spielberg backed Sonnenfeld's version, calling it the future of smart blockbusters. The gamble worked. The movie's tone created an entirely new genre, sci-fi absurdism laced with heart. It wasn't horror and it wasn't parody. It was truth hiding under jokes. What could have been another creature feature instead became a mirror for late 90s anxiety about government secrecy and the unknown watching from above. The Neuralizer almost got the film banned. The government wasn't thrilled with the idea of a mind-erasing device being depicted on screen. Reports circulated that an actual intelligence agency reached out through unofficial channels asking the studio to tone it down. The Neuralizer prop had to be redesigned to look more toy-like and less like real tech. The original version was darker, sleeker, and even emitted a blinding flash considered too realistic. Sonnenfeld later said he felt they were walking on thin ice with real science agencies. Ironically, the prop became so iconic it spawned actual toy versions within months of release. What was nearly censored as dangerous tech ended up in the hands of millions of kids. The very thing the government feared became a pop culture joke. Vincent D'Onofrio scared the crew off set. While filming the final confrontation with the alien bug, D'Onofrio stayed in character so deeply that even the crew kept their distance. Covered head to toe in slime and prosthetics, he would sit silently between takes, twitching his neck and muttering insect noises. Extras reported feeling uneasy just standing near him. Sonnenfeld encouraged the commitment, but later admitted it created a strange tension on set. During one take, when D'Onofrio lunged unexpectedly, several crew members screamed and dropped equipment. He laughed afterward, but the fear was real. His method performance transformed a rubber suit into living terror. What could have been a campy villain became a grotesque icon. He wasn't pretending to be the bug. He became it. The film nearly lost its release date, as post-production dragged on Columbia Pictures faced a nightmare deadline. Special effects were arriving incomplete hours before final prints were due. Sonnenfeld and the editors slept on couches in the mixing room, racing to finish color grading. The premiere date was locked by marketing contracts, meaning delay was impossible. Rumors spread that the film might ship with unfinished scenes. At the last second, Industrial Light and Magic delivered the final CGI render, minutes before the reel had to leave for duplication. Crew members applauded through tears of exhaustion. The movie reached theaters by a miracle. What audiences saw as effortless spectacle was the product of sleepless nights and panic-fueled coffee runs. Men in Black wasn't polished by time it was carved out of chaos. The real UFO call. After the movie premiered, Barry Sonnenfeld received a strange voicemail from an unlisted number. The voice on the other end thanked him for portraying the truth with discretion. It hung up without identifying itself. The call came days after the film's government sequences drew attention from UFO researchers. Sonnenfeld later played the recording for Will Smith, who joked that they were now being watched for real. The voicemail was never traced. Was it a prank or something else entirely? No one knows, but it left the crew uneasy, realizing their playful conspiracy film had brushed up against something eerily authentic. The fiction had echoed reality too closely, and the Men in Black, whoever they were, might have noticed. Men in Black began as a comic book curiosity and ended as a cultural myth. It turned paranoia into humor and made government secrecy entertaining. Behind every smooth one-liner was exhaustion, bruises, and risk. Behind every alien was a craftsman sweating in latex. The movie's secret wasn't just that we're not alone, it was that creativity can thrive even in chaos.